Tonight, Supergirl finds out that she has a type, and it just so happens to be insane Kryptonians with body issues. Wonder Woman visits New Genesis for like 20 minutes, tops. And the Trinity War may be shut down prematurely because Superman just is not having any of that. All that and more tonight on the Not So New 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 98 of the Not So New 52. I am your host and YouTube people who watch this on YouTube. Hold on, I need to talk to you. I guess podcast people you can listen to. So for those of you not in the know, we have a YouTube channel, Comics from the Multiverse, where you can watch this show, as well as another show that we do, which is Comics from the Multiverse, which does the new DC comics every week. However, in addition to those, we have 3 videos going up every single day on the channel. Almost all of those are just cut up segments from Comics from the Multiverse. We take each individual comic, make it its own video, and upload that. And that's been going pretty good. However, half of that scheduling is backlogged stuff, things from before we started cutting it up on a weekly basis, and that's from the Comics from the Multiverse show. So now that that backlog is running dry, we're going to start cutting up this show's episodes into single issue videos, so that way you can watch just the Batman stuff or just the Superboy stuff. But let's be honest, you're not going to watch the Superboy stuff. So with that in mind, the question I need to ask you, people on YouTube, and anyone else who has an opinion, do you want that in your subscriber feed? No matter what, we're doing it, but we have the ability to not send it into your subscription feed. Reasons that you might not want it is because they are talking, actually just myself, are talking about 12-year-old comics that you may or may not have an interest in, and that's fine if you don't want that filling up your subscription feed 3 times a day. However, we need to know if that's not what you want. So, if you have any opinion on it at all, or even if you don't have an opinion, please let me know in the comments down below. I really want to know whether or not you want this stuff put into your subscription feed, or if you would rather manually go into the channel and see the videos that you've missed. Yes, this will be devastating for our view counts. However, I'd much rather you guys have only the videos that you're interested in rather than unsubscribing from a bunch of spam. So, tell me if you're interested in these videos, these individual comics being sent directly into your subscription feed, or not, or if you don't care. Just let me know. So, with all that rambling out of the way, second thing I need to mention to everybody, I'm very sorry if by the end of this review segment, by the end of this show, my voice sounds like I'm a reject from some 80s cartoon villain, because this is now the second time I've had to record essentially this entire show, because my microphone just decided to stop working halfway through and not tell me. So by the time I finished, half my audio was missing, so very sorry about that, but trust me, I'm much more upset about it than you are. With all that said, you're here for comics, so let's talk about the comics coming out this week. Very small amount, though I pretty much had to double up on it. We have Batman and Robin, Batwoman, Birds of Prey, Supergirl, Green Lantern New Guardians, Wonder Woman, Legion of Superheroes, and Animal Man. All of those are issue number 22. Additionally, we have the 6th issue of Justice League of America's Vibe and the 6th issue of Justice League of America, which is notable because that is the second part of the Trinity War event. So check that out, because it's kind of what the whole universe has been leading to. Anyway, all that said and done, I've wasted enough of your time. Let's jump right on in to Trinity War. Justice League of America number 6, written by Geoff Johns and Jeff Lemire, art by Doug Mahnke. So this is part 2, depending on how you count, of Trinity War. Last issue in Justice League, we had Justice League going to stop Shazam from going into Kahndaq, and then Justice League of America was going in to stop the Justice League, and it all culminated with Superman killing Dr. Light from the Justice League of America via his heat vision. So this issue picks up, and we have the Question is narrating pretty much the whole issue. And he just goes, I mean, to give you an idea, he just basically says like, oh, I constantly have a question that I wrestle with. But right now, the biggest question right now is like, what is the evil behind the evil? So that's a thing. But as we see over in Kahndaq, it's just a full brawl. Everyone is fighting with each other. And they're like, did Superman seriously just kill someone? That's messed up. We got to deal with that now. So we see fight scene breaking out. Amanda Waller's calling in, trying to figure out what the hell just happened because Dr. Light's vitals just dropped off the map, and Superman seems to be the one behind it. And Superman's just like, hey, if everyone could please get away from me, I'm not sure if I'm safe to be around right now. So the Atom's freaking out, saying like, oh God, I shouldn't have betrayed the Justice League. This is all messed up. This is all because of me. I'm so upset. Martian Manhunter goes after Superman, trying to see if there's some reason like in his brain that was the issue. Flash stops him by putting a hand through his chest, like vibrating wise. Vibe steps in to stop the Flash, and then he's like, oh wait, hold on, I'm sensing there's someone else here from another world. It's not the Flash, it's something else. But before he can say anything, Flash explodes with energy. And as the fighting continues, Superman's just like, stop. Everyone stop, and they keep on fighting. And then he just slams his hands down on the ground and just tells everyone shut up and lock me up now. And everyone's like, what? What did he say? And he's like, I just killed the guy. Like, I can't control what's going on. I don't know what's up. Lock me up. And everyone just looks to Steve Trevor, and he's like, well, you heard him. Let's lock up Superman. So we cut back to Argus, where Steve Trevor is talking to Amanda Waller, and he's like, I told you Dr. Light shouldn't have gone out in the field. I told you, and you didn't listen. And Amanda was like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. However, we're now looking at a world where people might not be able to trust Superman and therefore the Justice League, and we are in a unique position to take advantage of that. And Trevor's like, did you have anything to do with this? Because this seems really convenient to you. And she's like, no, I swear to God, it wasn't me. So we see over in the Argus medical wing, everyone's just hanging around talking and like trying to figure out what's going on. We see Flash is still kind of a little bit wobbly from whatever Vibe did to him. He's like, oh geez, I don't know who that kid is, but he's got some power behind him. And Shazam's like, hey, I'm not with either Justice League. Can I go home now? And they're like, no, you really shouldn't. So at that point, Amanda Waller takes Firestorm aside and says, look, Firestorm, I need you to be honest with me right now. Are you able to make kryptonite? And he's just like, So we see Wonder Woman walking with Trevor down to where they're holding Superman. And she's basically chewing him out like, why didn't you tell us that you were like coming to attack us? Why didn't you just call us up and ask us what's going on? And he's just like, I have my orders the same as you have yours. And it's like, yeah, but we're friends. And it's like, yeah, and we're just friends. So Wonder Woman goes inside to where Superman's being held. Batman's already inside, and Superman's got like a little bit of a cough. And Batman's like, I have never heard you cough before. What is going on? Are you actually like sick or something? And Superman's like, yeah, I guess. Hey, can you tell me about the man I killed? Like, who was he? And it's like, oh, he was a scientist. He got some powers like 2 issues ago. And he joined the team for them. He's apparently able to like draw energy out of things. And we think that his power may have just triggered your heat vision. And so you aren't responsible for it. I really need you to understand that. This is not your fault. And he's like, yeah, cool. Did he have a family? And Batman's like, yeah, he had a wife and 3 kids. And Wonder Woman hears this and just like, why in the world are you telling him all this stuff that's just going to make him more upset? And it's like, he asked about it. I don't know what you want me to say. So at that point, Wonder Woman walks up. He's like full lockdown, by the way. He's not able to see or hear much of anything. But Wonder Woman comes up and says, okay, here's the thing. Pandora showed up right before all this. I'm thinking it's probably her fault. I'm going to go track her down. And Batman's like, Pandora? I'm pretty sure that's a myth. And she's like, we went through all of this last issue. I'm not about to try to convince you. But she's real. So at that point, Superman is like, okay, Diana, I just really want you to be here right now. I feel like that's kind of something I could use right now. And she's like, I get it totally, but like, I need to go clear your name and like make sure this isn't going to happen again. So she walks out and says that she's off to find Pandora. Meanwhile, Cyborg is looking into the autopsy of Dr. Light to make sure that the story lines up, that it was because of Dr. Light's powers. So we see Wonder Woman makes her way to Hephaestus, who is the like forger of the gods, and she just straight up lassos him, just like, Pandora's box, you made it, what does it do? And he's like, hey, over in your book, me and you were friends, why are you threatening me? And she's like, because it really requires it for this scene. Now tell me about Pandora's box. And he basically says like, we don't know. We didn't make it. I didn't make it. She found it in my temple, which, to be clear, 2 weeks ago, before this issue came out, we had Pandora issue 1, where we saw her open the box. Wasn't that at all. So within 2 weeks, they needed to retcon something, but I digress. Turns out the gods have no idea where it came from. They had no ability to control it, and so they just used Pandora to open the box and release all the evils out. But the gods themselves have no idea. So at that point, we see everyone still kind of dealing with their own stuff. And Wonder Woman is flying to what appears to be London, maybe England, hard to say. But regardless, it is where Madame Xanadu's shop blew up. And the Justice League Dark is there to clean up everything. And they're like, oh, Wonder Woman, hey, you aren't supposed to be able to see past my magic force field. And she's like, yeah, I'm kind of magic myself. Anyway, what's going on? Like, is something wrong here? And she's like, no, we're just dealing with something totally unrelated. Madame Xanadu may have blown up. What's going on with you? And she's like, yeah, I need the Justice League Dark. I need your guys' help because I'm dealing with some real heavy magic. So back in Argus headquarters, we see Steve Trevor make his way in past some guards, and he's like, I need 2 minutes alone with Superman. Just let me in and I'll deal with this. And so he goes inside and he unhooks Superman's like helmet that's keeping him in check. And Superman's like, I don't think we've made sure I'm safe yet, Steve. That seems like a bad idea. And he's like, oh, well, you're not a killer, Superman, and I'm not Steve Trevor. And we see him wash away the facade of his mask, and it turns out it's Question. And he's like, I have many questions, Superman, but for you, do you want to find out who really killed Dr. Light? So that's the issue. Solid second part, moving pieces around. We got Wonder Woman bringing the Justice League Dark in because they are part of this event. I believe they're actually the next book in the order of things, so we will be checking out them soon enough. It's another fine issue. I don't really have any issues with it. My biggest concern is Doug Mahnke's art style is very different from the last issue. And so that was kind of a little bit of a hiccup there because I read them pretty close together, all things considered. But it's still good art style. My biggest problem is that retcon with Pandora, where we saw in Pandora #1 that she was like 8,000 years ago and she was just in some random ass little like tribe. But now apparently she was Greek, which I think was the, original myth. But like, if you just established your continuity, why are you changing it? It's 2 weeks later. This is something you could have planned for, but you didn't. It feels sloppy, especially because that is the prologue to Trinity War. So it's something that should have been looked over, unless I'm missing something there, but I don't think I am. So overall, I'd say that this second part, I'll go ahead and give I'll give it a 7.5. It's good. It's still moving things around. I still don't feel like we've really gotten to the meat of it, and I'm not even sure how many parts this event is, so hopefully this gets going sooner rather than later, but I'm at least intrigued with the Superman feels like Superman, and that feels good. Batman and Robin number 22, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Patrick Gleason. This is also Batman and Catwoman, but I digress. So this issue, after last issue, which was, I believe, the bargaining phase, this is Despair, which, I guess. But we open up with Catwoman, who is talking about how, she's got this heist for this thing called the Ram in a Thicket, which is just this little ancient figurine dating back over 4,000 years, and she just wants to steal it. And I'm not even sure if she's stealing it for somebody, but she is picking it up here. And as she's stealing it from the museum, she gets a call from Steve Trevor, because of course she's in the JLA. And she's like, hey, sorry to interrupt your time off, but we've got a situation that requires your talents. Get on it. So at that point, we cut over to Bruce, who is waking up at 11 in the morning, and Carrie Kelly is in his kitchen. And she's just recording him, and it's just like, oh yeah, hey, early bird gets the worm, I guess. And Bruce is like, what are you doing in my house? I thought that, we dealt with this. I gave you money and you go away. And she's like, oh yeah, I got hired by Alfred. And at that point, Bruce just yells out for Alfred for an explanation. And turns out that Alfred had hired Carrie to give her attention to Titus, Damien's dog, 3 times a week. So she's just showing up here 3 times a week to take care of the dog. And Bruce is like, why can't you do that, Alfred? And he's just like, I'm a bit busy with a few other things, in case you haven't noticed. So basically, we have Carrie explaining, like, yeah, I really felt close to Damien. Like, we had a brother-sister thing going on. He told me about a lot of aspects of his life, and he really opened up to me. He was into acting. He wanted to get into acting and such like that. And he really had a knack for it. So we see that Carrie is like, hey, by the way, you promised me that I could talk to him. And Bruce just is like, yeah, I forgot about that. I'll be sure to tell him to give you a call. And she's like, nah, that's not really good enough. Here's the deal. I have 2 flash drives here. One of them contains the interview I did with Damien in order to see, his acting ability and such like that, and how interested he was in this. Usually I don't share that with parents, but, he's a minor, so sure, here you go. But I'll only give this to you under the circumstance that you have Damien call me. And he says, all right, and what's the other thing? What's the other film? And it's like, oh, well, it's Damien's short film he made. It's a thing about Titus the dog. They filmed that. And so Bruce says, fine, whatever, deal. So he picks up the flash drives, sends Carrie on her way, and Bruce then heads down into the Batcave. And Alfred's like, oh, it's nice to have a bit of youth around the house. And it's like, yeah, it was. So we see, as far as I can tell, Bruce just heads out to Damien's grave, puts the flash drives on the ground next to it, and he's like, oh yeah, your friend wanted me to have this, but seems right to go to you. Like, he doesn't even check them. But he does keep his word and seemingly fakes a audio file of Damien's voice to call up Carrie. But we see in order to do this, he has to listen through tons and tons of mission footage of Damien's voice, and it's just breaking him down. He is just sitting and brooding in his chair, super hardcore. And then all of a sudden he gets an alert on the back computer, and it's a Catwoman signal, which, sure. And so he goes out and just like, Catwoman, what do you want? And just like, oh, a little bit of everything, this and that. And he's like, I am not in the mood. What do you want? And she's like, fair enough. I'm working with the JLA. And he's like, well, Trinity War hasn't happened yet, so that's completely insane. There's no way you are. And she's like, nope, I totally am. I'm their special secret member. And they want me to go in and get a spy that has been taken hostage. There's an asset. We got to go in and get this spy out and got to take care of that. And he's like, all right. And it's like, oh, well, I figured maybe you'd want to help me out. I could really use some friends in bat places. And he's like, fine, whatever. So at that point, she reveals it's underneath a Chinese embassy. So that's a problem. So at that point, they go into the sewers. Batman has a floor disintegrating gun, and he just shoots it, and it allows them to break into the embassy. And they just go through and start knocking out all the guards, and they make sure that no one is made aware that they were there at all. And as they finally get up to the top floor where the hostage is being held, turns out this isn't the spy, and it is a young little girl who just wants her mommy and daddy. And Catwoman explains, yeah, okay, so maybe I lied. This girl is the daughter of a man who defected away from this superhero, or supervillain, I should say, group, because he didn't want to make any more monsters. And they're holding the daughter hostage in order to get him to come back and make more supervillains. So Yeah, that's a thing. So at that point, Batman and Catwoman's like, fine, all right, we'll save the girl. Clearly that needs to happen. So they go and start beating the crap out of all the different guys. We see Batman jumping in to save Catwoman once or twice, and in the end, it comes down to Batman has the just some random. I guess the guy who's running it money wise, he's got a gun to the little girl's head, and Batman's like, "You just saw what we did to the superpowered people. You're not going to be able to stop us. Drop the gun." And he's like, "Fair enough." So he puts down the gun. They get the little girl, and Batman just knocks the guy out. Steve Trevor's called in to take care of all the mess, and before they arrive, Batman's like, all right, let's get this girl out of here. So they're going to jump from the rooftop, and the girl's like, oh, should I close my eyes? And Batman's like, have you ever wanted to fly? And she says, yeah. And he's like, don't close your eyes then. As they go over the city, and it seems like Batman's actually cracking a little smile. So Catwoman arrives back at her penthouse, and when she gets there, there is a motorcycle helmet with cat ears on it, and a note from Batman saying, hey, I think it was in your book that I destroyed your helmet. Here's a new one. Sorry. And so she's super in on that. And then Carrie Kelly across town is getting home with some groceries. She listens to a voicemail from Damien, which is, of course, faked. And he just basically says, hey, really enjoyed watching that video. My dad told me that you handed it over. Don't worry about it. I'm totally cool with it. By the way, I'm going to be studying in Malaysia for the next several months. And so maybe because of the time zone differences, we should do all of our communication by email. Looking forward to hearing from you. See you around. So she at least seems to take that on face value. Just like, oh, Damien. So finally, we get one last thing of across town at some fancy restaurant. Two-Face walks in, sits down, pulls out his gun, flips his coin. It comes up on the clean side, and then he just walks out after saying no. So 5 guesses to whatever Two-Face is up to. I mean, I know what it's going to end up being, which is that he's going to be the and Robin of this book for a while, but I don't know why he keeps on walking into restaurants and flipping a coin. That part's still a mystery. So we'll get there. But this one, it's weird because the first book here out of these little 5 stages of grief definitely felt like denial. The second one definitely felt like rage. The third one, as I said last time, was I saw where they were coming with bargaining, but I don't feel like it really stuck the landing. This one didn't even feel like despair. If anything, this was like a happy moment for Batman. It seems like this is more of the acceptance than it was the despair. So I don't know. It just seemed a little off to me. Maybe it was a bit more subtext than I'm giving it credit for, but it just seemed like this was more acceptance than anything else. So overall, it is still a solid issue. The fact that Catwoman's in it just, whatever, who cares? We easily could have had this be just, he goes and saves a little girl from some group. It's only because he needed to be with somebody to make this work. So I'm going to give this one I'll give it a 7.5. It's good. It's a fine enough issue. It's not really crossing that great threshold, but I can't really point to anything that I disliked in the whole issue. The only thing I might critique is the fact that the quote-unquote supervillain team was just a bunch of no-names and random-ass powers that didn't really seem that important to the story as a whole. But hey, you gotta have a plot, so 7.5. Batwoman number 22, written by J.H. Williams III and W. Haden Blackman, art by Trevor McCarthy. So last issue was an interlude, but the issue before that had Kate being aware that her sister Beth is alive, being held by the DEO, and her family basically saying, we're gonna help you whether you like it or not. So this issue picks up with Director Bones telling Kate, hey, your target is out in Alaska. It's super cold out there, but go out there and find them. And we have no ability to help you. We're going in blind. So when you get out there, good luck. And we see them chasing a figure all throughout Alaska. And by them, I mean it's Kate and Bet, who are making their way through in their superhero identities. And as they run their way through, they lose the heat signature of this guy. And it's like, crap, all right. So either this guy is smart or we just lost him because like maybe like ducked into a cave or something. And as they're walking across this icy lake, we see that the lake explodes upwards in a huge amount of like gas or something like that. And out from the ice pops Bane. They're tracking Bane. And they're just like, oh, geez, all right, fine, Bane. All right, I guess we'll take care of him. So they, basically get into a fight with him. Obviously, they don't stand a chance because it's Bane. But they realize, like, okay, all we need to do is just get him off balance, and then we can take care of the rest. So after a little bit of a fight where they just keep on trying to knock him down, Kate finally does manage to land a hit, takes him a little bit to his knees, and Kate throws this rope that immediately wraps around him and a nearby tree. And turns out that this rope is a python coil, which will just keep on tightening the more you struggle until it pops your eyes out of your head. So Kate's like, all right, here's the thing. We aren't even trying to arrest you, Bane. Just like stop struggling, listen up. All we need is information. Tell us what you know about Batman. And Bane's like, you're going after Batman? You don't stand a chance. You're so out of your league with him. Like, I'm the only one who managed to take down Batman, and I had to physically exhaust him for longer than like is even doable nowadays, and I got lucky. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to do this. And Batwoman's like, all right, yeah, thanks anyway, bye. And he's like, wait a minute, hold on, it's freezing cold and I can't get out of this. Please let me go. And she's like, no, we're going to send someone to take you. You honestly think we weren't here to take you in, you idiot? So they make their way out, and we hear footsteps coming up from behind Bane, and he's like, oh, hey, you came back. Thank you for coming to cut me out. And turns out it's actually Chase, who's like, oh, yeah, I'll cut you loose, but first we got to make a deal. So next we see Maggie has pulled out a couple of Batman's lesser-known rogues gallery and is just interviewing them about Batman. Just like, hey, tell me what you know about the guy. And we got Black Mask, who's basically saying, like, it's weird you're going after Batman now. Maybe, did he like finally cross the line? Has he started like killing? Is that what's going on here? Maybe he's a cop. You ever think of that? We see someone named Fright, who apparently exhales nerve toxins, and she is some sort of psychiatrist. She's like, oh yeah, no, he's insane. Like, he's got like these rituals and these habits, but like his moral code points to him being insane to some degree. We see a guy named the Mortician who believes he can raise the dead, who thinks that he's a supernatural element that is just here for revenge. It's like a cosmic punishment sort of thing. And then we see Professor Pig, who's like, he's drugged up. He's on the good stuff. I wish I was still on the good stuff, but yeah, no, maybe he's like a robot underneath all that if he's not on drugs, because he's beyond human. So at that point, Batwoman steps out of the shadows after they all give their interviews and just like, all right, thank you. I think we have everything we need. So then we get to the second half of the issue, which is completely unrelated to the first, which is we see Bet going through a building, trying to sneak in, and she has to take down all these guards while she's at it. And we see Colonel Kane and his wife, Catherine. I'm still a bit confused on their relationship, but regardless, Jacob Kane's pointing out, like, here's what she did wrong here, here's what she did wrong here, she messed up this, she'd be dead here. And we come to understand that this was actually just a training run, and this is all people that were hired by Kane to test Bet, to see if she's able to get into a highly secure facility without being caught. And Bet comes out and is just like, yeah, no, it's real good on the training there. Definitely didn't feel like the real thing, wink. And he's just like, hey, it's going to be much worse when we're there. We're talking about breaking into the DEO, because as it turns out, they're training Bet to go break out Beth, aka Alice. So she's talking to her uncle, Colonel Kane, and we see that all the guys that were hired, they have a full breakdown here as to like who they are and their names and stuff, but they're called the Crows, and they were old military buddies with Colonel Kane, and they're hired on here as these different experts. One's a sniper, one's martial arts, one's demolition, and they're just like, yeah, no, She beat the crap out of us, dude. She's totally ready for whatever it is you want to throw her into. There's no doubt about that. And Colonel Kane's just like, no, this is going to be the hardest thing she ever does. And if she is not 100% ready, she will die. And I'm not about to let that happen. And so Beth steps up and says, fine, everyone back into position. We'll run it again. And then after that, we'll run it again. And if anyone's still able to get up at that point, we'll run it again. And we're going to keep doing that until you're satisfied. Got it? And Colonel Kane's just like, all right, sounds like you're running the show now. So last page, we see up on a heliport that Batwoman has laid out some bait to try to get Batman out into the open, and Bones is like, I don't know if it's going to work. And he's, for some reason, in full fishing gear, trying to make the bait pun go a little bit further. And he's just like, oh, I'm not sure he'll bite. And Batwoman's like, I would, and therefore he will. And it's like, fair enough. All right, get going. So, don't know what's going to happen next issue. Seems that there's some sort of plan laid out to have Batman cut out of the woodwork, and also maybe they're going in to rescue Beth already. Who knows? But we'll see next time. Overall, solid issue. They didn't really go as crazy with the layout work as they usually do, but I don't think Trevor McCarthy usually does, at least not as much as I think it's Blackman who usually does the art. So overall, though, it is still great. It's a fine piece of work. I'm intrigued. I'm invested in seeing where it goes from here. It's definitely got a lot of subterfuge going on. So overall, I'm going to give this one I'll just give it a flat 7. It's good, but it does still feel like it's not doing anything big yet. This is more so just all right, let's lay out all the plans, sort of. It's that scene in The Heist where everyone's just like, all right, here's the idea. Now let's actually execute it next issue. And so I feel like that's really going to work next time, but this one, flat 7. Birds of Prey number 22, written by Christy, Marx, art by Romano, Molenaar, Robson, Rocha, and Scott McDaniel. So last issue was like a semi-crossover with Talon, and in the Talon issue, we had Strix tell Calvin Rose, aka Talon, here, like, I lost my suit and such during our battle, but you're totally cool to go, and we're all square and even. Go fight the good fight. So this issue picks up with Black Canary, Condor, and Batgirl all still looking for Strix, and it's like, oh, I think I hear some movement on the middle floor as everyone converge, and they all start running into the same room together. Batgirl traces down some blood patterns, which leads them back down into the lab, which is where Strix is just hanging out. She's literally just sitting there. And it's like, oh, Strix, you're great. Like, where's the other guy? And they also recognize that she's wearing a new outfit, and they question where the dead girl's body went. And Strix just puts her finger to her lips and says, shush. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll get all those answers eventually. For right now, burn this mother to the ground. We're not letting the Court of Owls keep anything here. So they light up some incendiary stuff and just destroy the whole building. And Condor's like, all right, well, let's go back home, I guess. And Black Canary's like, no, don't you remember, like 3 issues ago, Starling betrayed us. She knows all of my secret places. I trusted her implicitly. I can't go anywhere that I would go before. We have to find somewhere new. And Batgirl's like, I mean, I would, but I've got my own stuff going on. And Black Canary's like, fair enough, not going to ask you to do that. And then Condor steps up and says, I have a place. It's kind of just like my staging area, but we can go there. And so Condor flies Black Canary there, whereas Batgirl and Strix take a bike. And as they arrive, Batgirl gets a call. And she's like, what? Huh? I have my own book? Crap. And so she hangs up the phone. Black Canary's like, what's all that about? And she's like, I've got stuff I need to take care of. Don't ask me about it. You can't help me. I'm going to go back to my own book now. And so she drives off in a huff. Then we meet up with the leader of Basilisk, aka Regulus, who we have seen in several other books. But now he's here, and he's like, good. My Operation Kaizen begins now. And Little Lackey's like, what does that mean? It's like, it means like rebirth and improvement. And like, come on, get with the program. So we see her name is Cyclone, which she seems familiar, but I can't place her. and her teammates Hammer Down and Whipcrack, as well as some new girl who's just like a normal ass millennial named Uplink. And she's like, I'm kind of more into IT. I really shouldn't be a part of this mission. They're like, shut up, you're coming with. And Basilisk is like, okay, you need to go get our former teammate Condor and bring him back. Also, he's with Black Canary. I would also like her as well. And it's like, why do you want Black Canary? It's like, because I was in the Team 7 book. So we have a history. So, yep. So anyway, days pass, and they're all like, man, is Batgirl good? She hasn't reported back in for a couple days. And Black Canary's like, I don't know. Strix has just been hanging up in the rafters, not saying a word. Like, this whole team's falling apart. And they go full soap opera, and Condor's like, maybe the team might be falling apart, but I'll always be here with you. And they make out again, and Black Canary's like, no, we can't do that. I don't know what I need right now, but I'm not ready. And Condor's like, fair enough, I'll be patient. I'll wait for you, baby. So at that point, Condor's like, by the way, this place, my staging area, doesn't have food, so I'm going to go and pick up some groceries, and I'll be back soon. So he flies off, goes to get some stuff. We see an old woman is asking for bus fare, and Condor's like, I'll do you better than that. And he flags down a taxi, puts her in the cab, hands the cab driver everything that would cover like the entire fare, and walks away. And she's like, oh wow, he really passed the test. He passed the test with flying colors. But we don't get the answer to that yet. So then we see Black Canary telling Strix like, hey, you want to come down and talk? You want to maybe be buddies? And Strix jumps down and opens up the garage. Batgirl comes flying in on her bike, and she's like, oh, Batgirl, what's going on? And Batgirl's like, I have been through so much in my own book. See issues like 15 to 20. It's been a lot. I'm so upset. But have you, I didn't have a choice. I had to kill him because Batgirl killed her brother, quote unquote, as far as she knows. And she's very upset about that. And Black Canary's like, oh, I'm sure you did what you had to do. So anyway, Condor's flying back home with some food. And he starts getting attacked by some cyclones, and it turns out it's Cyclone and Hammerdown and whatever else their names were. And they all start attacking, and Condor's like, oh, the whole team's here again. I left you guys because you were terrorists or whatever. I'm not going to join you again. And Cyclone's like, but we were lovers once. You won't have a choice. So Hammerdown and Whipcrap show up at Condor's workshop, where, of course, all the rest of the Birds of Prey are hanging out. Whipcrack uses electric tasers and attacks Strix. Hammerdown tries to attack Black Canary, but the two of Black Canary and Batgirl fight him off. And then Condor comes in with Cyclone in hand. It's just like, leave him alone. And Black Canary asks who they are. And he says, yeah, you remember I was on a team before. This is them, but they're terrorists. And once I realized they were terrorists, I left. And Black Canary's like, oh, you were a terrorist? And he's like, no, that's not at all what I said. And she's like, I can't believe it. I will never trust anyone ever again. And so at that point, it looks like they're all about to start attacking. Black Canary's like, screw this. Everyone clear. I'm using my canary cry. And as she's about to do it, the IT girl comes in, and I guess she's able to use like some form of telepathy, and she knocks them all out, and they're all completely unconscious on the ground. And it's like, all right, let's get them transported out of here. And that's the issue. I gotta say, I don't like Black Canary. I just this version, it's not so much the way that like Christy Marx is writing her, but it's just so, like, who cares? Like, just think for like a quarter second, because it's just, she immediately is like, I can't believe it, betrayed again, like Starling did to me. And I understand she has serious trust issues, but the fact that this guy straight up said, I was on a previous team and I left because I didn't like the way they did things, and then they show up and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you're on a team that did bad things. It's like, no shit, Canary. It's just, I don't know. It just bothered me. I do also like the fact that Christy Marx decided to take the time to explain, like, by the way, everything that happened in Batgirl happened between, like, these 3 pages. She went off for a few days, we let her do her thing, and now she's back. It's a little bit of world building that wasn't necessary because, like, nobody ever questions how Batman's life fits into things, but I do like that they took the time for Batgirl here. Overall, I mean, it's an okay issue. I'm really sick of Regulus. I was sick of Regulus like the 4th time he showed up, let alone now. So I'm going to go ahead and say, all things considered, this one is probably it's probably like a 6. And most of that is just my sheer gut reaction to, I don't want to deal with Basilisk anymore. I don't think they're good villains. I'm honestly just pissed off with them most of the time. And the fact that they're here again, just like, ugh, who cares? So 6 for this. Please stop. Supergirl number 22, written by Michael Allen Nelson, art by Diogenes Neves. Last issue, we had Supergirl landing on a cyborg alien planet sort of thing that is able to recreate things from her memory, and then a cyborg looking Superman showed up and said, "Hey Kara, we need to talk." So this issue picks up where she's like, "Jesus Christ, Cal, what happened to you?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm not Cal. I'm not a clone. I'm none of those things. I have nothing to do with this planet either. I'm totally separate. My technology fused with my body, and I'm something different." And Supergirl says, and I quote, "So you're some kind of cyborg Superman?" And I just want to end the review there, but I'm going to continue. And she's like, "Yeah, sure. I guess that's what you can call me." And she's like, "Something about you seems familiar. Like, you kind of... I mean, obviously you're wearing my family crest, which is its own thing. I don't know what that's about. But, like, also you look a little bit like, you know, my cousin or maybe his dad. I don't know, something like that." And he's just like, "Yeah, no, the symbol, like, says I'm Kryptonian, but I can't remember anything. And I'm really hoping that you could help." And she's like, "How do I do that?" And he explains, "Look, you are able to make these memories about Krypton. You can do that using the planet of Inoxia." I'm never going to remember that. "And I just want you to continue to, like, basically using it to spark enough that maybe it'll spark one of my memories and I can remember where I came from." And Supergirl's like, "Okay, how much do we need?" And the Delacour, the guy running the planet's like, "Oh, we could, like, recreate all of Krypton. Like, we could do that. If you want to, we could easily do that." And he's like, "Please, yes, help me." And she's like, "But none of this would be real." And he's like, "Yeah, no, well, clearly, but, like, the memory of it, like, just to help me, like, could we at least give it a try?" And she's like, "I don't know, but it would take me forever to describe it, even if I wanted to." And he's just like, "Oh, no, like, we just start small. Just, like, how about this? Describe the house you grew up in." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And she starts to describe, like, little memories she had about the house, and then, boom, there it is. It just appears in front of her. And she's like, "Oh my God, it's perfect. It's every look. There's a stain on the floor from my dad's experiments, and it even smells like the flowers my mother had. That's incredible." And as she's walking around, Cyborg Superman turns to Delacour and is just like, "Look, I don't want to have to risk killing her, so you have to convince her to do this, okay?" And it's just like, "Okay, but are you going to eventually tell her who made you?" And then we see Supergirl come up and just being like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you so much." And he's like, "Oh, that's not all. I got something special. You know how you've been verbally describing all your stuff? We don't need to do that anymore for some reason. Here's a little headpiece. You put this on, and it's going to be very painful, but it's going to make it a lot easier." And she's like, "Okay." And so she puts it on, and it doesn't seem like it's doing anything. It's definitely not hurting her. And he takes off. She's like, "There you go, all done." She's like, "I thought you said it'd be painful." And he's like, "Oh no, the experience is going to be painful." And he points over across the room, and we see that through her tear-filled eyes, Kara's mom has been, quote-unquote, regenerated from the planet. And she's like, "Oh my God, this is messed up. No, this isn't right. She's dead, man. Why are you doing this to me?" And the mom explains, like, "Okay, yeah, no, I'm just a memory. I'm definitely not your real mom, but, like, you can still give me a hug. And she's like, okay, yeah, I could do that. So she goes up, gives mom a hug. And we see Delacour starting to transform into Zor-El. But then he looks over at Cyborg Superman and he's like, stops. And he like stops talking, and Cyborg Superman's like, "What? What's going on?" And he's just like, "Never mind. That seems like a bad idea. We shouldn't overwhelm her with other stuff." And he's like, "Okay." So we then look outside the window, and we see other Kryptonians have started to form. A whole bunch of other different members. One of which looks definitely like Hell, but they don't reference it as such. So I guess it's not. But regardless, Cyborg Superman's like, oh yeah, no, you take after your mother. She's a beautiful woman. And then he's like, yeah. So here's the thing. If you like this, you can stay here forever. You can be like with your family and friends and whatnot. You've got all the time in the world here. And she's like, oh, guess I should mention that. I have kryptonite poisoning and I'm dying. And so I'm not going to be here for a while. But then she realizes, like, okay, but maybe that's a good thing. Like, I spend my final days surrounded by people that I know and love. Like, this is worse ways to go out. I don't know. Maybe not, I'll consider it. And so we see Kara's mother is just like, oh, yes, come, let's go down to the garden. She starts to fly. And Kara's like, actually, we couldn't fly on Krypton. Actually. And it's like, oh, right. Sorry, my bad. So they walk down to the gardens and we see Cyborg Superman's like, oh my god, that's perfect. She's dying. She'll definitely go ahead with my plan. But then a voice inside his head with a green colored text box that's definitely not Brainiac, certainly not Brainiac, says, no, this is a rare opportunity. We have to study like kryptonite poisoning. We're not able to do that anymore. He's like, I'm not gonna I have plans for her. And we see Brainiac start to argue, and then he's just like, nope, screw that. I'm not doing it. I'm done waiting. So Cyborg Superman flies in front of him and is just like, hey, okay, here's the thing. I have something that can cure your kryptonite poisoning. And she's like, wait, really? That seems awfully convenient. And it's like, yeah, no, I mean, I don't actually know a cure, but I know something that will make it unnecessary to even worry about it. It's like, okay, what do you got? And he says, okay, become one with the planet. What we're thinking is you upload your consciousness to the planet, you'll be totally in with all the other Nerexians. That's not the right term. But he's like, yeah, no, just do that. And she's like, okay, but like that mean I kind of die, right? He's like, no. Sure, your body would be a husk. And that's where it works out for me because I need a new body of Kryptonian flesh in order to substitute my own. And she's like, I'm sorry, you want to use my body for your own? And he's like, yes, but not in a creepy way. I just want to tear off your flesh and use it for my own. But okay, maybe a bit of a creepy way. So she's like kind of shutting him down, and he starts going full on like, you don't understand. I've been through hell. You will make me whole again. And she's like, oh no, you're another crazy guy. I'm gonna go. Goodbye, everyone. She flies off, and he's like, no, wait, hold on. I didn't mean it. And he starts chasing her down. And she's just like, every time a Kryptonian promises me the return of Krypton, I always have some crazy thing afterwards. I gotta stop falling into this. So she gets into a mild fight with Cyborg Superman, actually manages to get the upper hand for a little bit. But then we see Delacour's watching the fight scene and is like, okay, Inoxia, we need her alive. She doesn't have to be conscious, but don't kill her. And so all of the Inoxians turn into memories that Kara has of her being pissed off. So all these fake Supergirls come flying in, rage-filled, and come after her. And Cyborg Superman's like, "Mahaha, now you'll understand that you're your own worst enemy." And Supergirl's like, oh, you want to see me angry? You want to see me pissed off? You haven't even seen me pissed off. And so she starts just blasting through all these fake Supergirls, and she's like, my parents are dead, my planet's destroyed, everything I know about is gone forever, and on a world of primitive apes, they only shoot at me. Everything sucks. So she continues to fight them. Cyborg Superman throws like an energy blast at her, which pisses her off enough that she just lets rip with a heat vision, tears through the fake Supergirls, and just starts flying away. And Cyborg Superman's like, yo, you can run, but you can't hide. I'm going to follow you and get what I need. And she's like, I'm not running. And she makes her way over to her bike, swings it at Cyborg Superman to make some distance, and then turns the thrusters on full, just burying him in a heat of fire. And he's just like, you have no idea what I'm capable of. And so she hops on her bike and starts to fly out the atmosphere. The Cyborg Superman's like, Delacour, don't let her get away. And he's like, yep, right on it, boss. So he then proceeds to send all of her memories that she has over at Supergirl. And turns out it's just the whole Justice League and everyone she's ever met in her entire book. So they're all coming after her. I like it. It got a genuine eye roll from me in that first page where it's like, you're telling me we're some kind of cyborg Superman? Like, that was so dumb. But as the issue progressed, it really I liked the fact that Supergirl was just like, oh no, not this again. And just bailed. Like, I'm so, like, she's not even entertaining the idea of like, well, maybe if it's for a good enough reason. Like, no, you're definitely crazy. Goodbye. I love that. Art wise, looks great. There's a couple just like pure expression panels in this book where it's just reaction shots to things that Cyborg Superman was saying. Super great. Very expressive. I just enjoyed it. I think it was a real fun read the whole way through. So overall, I'm going to give this one an 8. I really do like it. And I don't know specifically how this arc is going to go. I do think that that Supergirl has a Cyborg Superman like tie-in issue once we get into Villains Month, which by the way is only like 2 months away. So we'll see if that has anything to do with this arc. But otherwise, I'm down for it in general. It seems like a fun little story. Green Lantern New Guardians issue 22, written by Justin Jordan, art by Brad Walker. So last time, the Guardians took Kyle out to a thing called the Anomaly. It cracked open and this giant yellow-looking dude was inside of it. So, yeah, that's a thing. This issue picks up with the yellow dude who, for the sake of the issue, I'm just going to say his name is Relic, and he says that later on in this issue. So Relic's looking around and he's like, oh, hey, I'm alive. That's neat. And the universe seems to be alive too. That's also neat. But wait a minute, hold on. The laws of physics feel a little bit different. This isn't the same universe I was in. Gonna have to research that. And he sends out some probes from his body to just scan all the nearby ships and things. And Kyle's looking on and he's like, what's that guy doing? And the Guardian's like, he's researching things. It's not an attack. He's just trying to figure out what's up. But then Exeter, the guy who was defending the Anomaly nearby, is like, hey, yeah, that thing, I was guarding it because it came from the universe before our universe. And so it was big enough of a problem that they decided to lock up in a thing that could survive the end of their universe. Probably shouldn't be let out, so let me go take care of him. And regardless, he busts out of Kyle's thing and starts charging in towards Relic. And he's like, being, cease what you're doing. This is the only warning. And Relic's like, oh, you got some technology on you. And he just like pries it off of Exeter, and it's just like, this is going to be very useful for me. Mind you, everything he's saying is in a tongue that not even the Green Lantern ring can decipher, so nobody's sure what he's saying. But he gets attacked by Kyle, who uses his light, obviously, which Relic recognizes. He's like, light? Someone's using light. Where's the light wielder? He calls him a light smith. Where's the light smith? And Kyle's like, hi, it was me. Please stop attacking that man. You need to understand, like, just this. Even if you can't understand anything else, let him go. And Relic's just like, okay, I ain't letting this happen again. I got a second chance at a new universe here, and these idiots are going to kill it the same way as before. So, done with that. And he throws Exeter over at Kyle, and we see all the ships that he placed probes on are starting to change and, like, morph together into a larger like super ship. And Kyle's like, okay, I'm like 89% sure that everyone in those ships is dead, so let's run in and try to save as many as we can. And so he flies in at top speed and unfortunately gets caught up inside the ship as it's forming. And once he's inside, he's like, okay, well, as long as I'm in here, I'm going to cause some damage. So he builds a Green Lantern buzzsaw like ring that he can ride in. And as he's causing some damage, the ship itself starts absorbing his construct and then starts grabbing at him and sucking away all of his energy until he stops being a White Lantern and just transforms back into normal-ass Kyle. So back in Coast City, Carol is doing some paperwork when all of a sudden her ring goes off. It says, Star Sapphire, we need you. She transforms against her will and is immediately teleported away to where the new Guardians are. And they're trying to repair Exeter. They're like doing the best they can. And Star Sapphire's like, how in the hell did you manage to access my ring? And they're like, it was very difficult. It took us like 20 seconds. But look, here's the thing. Kyle got stuck in the ship. We are totally out of our depth here, and we really need you because we think you have the best connection with him to go and save him. And she's like, I don't really have that much of a connection with him, but sure, okay, I guess I'll give it a shot. And we see Kyle inside of the ship, and he is just sitting under a tree painting a nice little painting, and we see Relic's text balloons pop up saying like, oh, do you need anything, Kyle? He's like, nah, I'm good. I already did all these paintings on the history of our universe and the history of the Green Lantern Corps and every 70s action movie. What more do you want? And he's like, well, how about you paint me a picture of Oa? And he's like, oh, that's cool, but is there a name I can call you? And he's like, oh, well, they used to call me Relic, but they don't anymore. It's like, oh, why is that? It's like, oh, because they're dead, but that's okay. And he's like, all right, that was dark. One picture of Oa coming up. So then we see what was actually going on. And Kyle is in some sort of horrific nightmare coma as Relic is running a whole bunch of tests on him. And we see he's like, yeah, these batteries sound super interesting. So Carol's trying to figure out the best way to go in and rescue Kyle. Exeter comes to, and he's like, hey, here's the thing. My power is that I can redirect any energy that's thrown at me and like focus it. So if you have the ability to just hit me with as much Star Sapphire power as possible, I'll blast a hole in that ship. And she's like, best idea I've got. So she hits him hard. It focuses the energy and sends it into the ship. And we see Kyle starts waking up a little bit. He sees Carol in his dream. And Carol's like, hey, Kyle, what you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just painting. It's real nice here. And she's like, okay, well, this isn't real. This is like some sort of nightmare. You need to snap out of this. And Relic's like, no, he's good. I'm letting him paint. And Kyle's like, he's letting me paint. So at that point, Carol's like, no, seriously, you know you could trust me. You know I wouldn't come here without a reason. You're trapped and you need to wake up. So Kyle's like, you're right. I'm not painting. And he throws all the paint stuff away and he wakes up and he gets his White Lantern power back. And Relic's like, wait a minute, hold on. There's no such thing as white light. That's not a thing. What's going on here? So at that point, they blow open an even bigger hole in the ship. Kyle manages to escape and he just comes up to Carol's like, hey, how's it going, Carol? You were in my dreams. And they realize that Exeter actually did have a limit to how much he was able to absorb of energy. So he's just dying in the vacuum of space. So Kyle's like, okay, well, I guess let me save him. And he zaps up Exeter and they start flying away from the ship. But meanwhile, the Guardians are like, hey, Kyle, great, you're out. Look, the ship is leaving. He's retreating. That means we won, right? And Kyle's like, no, I was in there and he was just doing a lot of research on lantern-related things. Turns out he hates the lanterns and he has the ability to destroy us all. And he is just going out to do that right now. So, oopsie poopsie. And that's where it ends. I don't think he actually says oopsie poopsie, but he may as well. So, I like this issue. I think they do a good job of setting up this villain of Relic, because the problem you have coming off the Geoff Johns run is you fought the First Lantern, who is essentially a god. How do you come back from that with a villain that challenges them, but also isn't this universally like clearly the Justice League would be involved style threat? And I think the best way to do that is not only is it a creature from before our universe, so already he's this mystery in terms of how powerful he is, but he's only interested in the Lantern Corps. He does not give a crap about the rest of the universe. He strictly cares about messing with the Lanterns. I think that's a brilliant way to bridge that gap of how do you make the villain not a Justice League level threat. Clearly, he probably should be, but only the Lanterns are going to deal with it. So Overall, this issue, the artwork, fantastic. I like the writing style of it, and I do like how they're introducing Relic here. So overall, I think I'm going to give this issue, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I really did enjoy it. I think it gives a solid intro here. It's still in the setup phases, which is why I'm not giving it like that super like wowie, super awesome rating, but it is still very, very good. It's a great book, and I'm looking forward to whatever it is we're going to lead to in terms of Relic. Justice League of America's Vibe, written by Sterling Gates, art by Pete Woods. So, last issue we had Vibe get captured by Argus because he was trying to break out Gypsy. And I feel like there was some other... Oh, Dante was told about it. He figures that his brother's in trouble. So this issue picks up with Agent Gunn talking to his husband, saying like, man, I run the circus. I should be able to do something to help Vibe get free. He doesn't deserve the punishment he's under. And Gunn's husband is like, okay, but hear me out. Maybe don't go up against Amanda Waller. That sounds like a very bad idea. And it's at this point that their window just crashes open and a soccer ball comes through. And Agent Gunn's like, ah, crap, it's him. And of course, it's Dante, who's like, you're going to help me get my brother back, because otherwise, and he pulls out his phone, I'm going to leak everything about Argus all over the internet. So where's my brother? And then we cut to Amanda Waller talking to Gypsy. She's, of course, back in containment, and Waller's like, yeah, see, you ran. That means you're dangerous, so we're going to lock you up even harder this time. And Gypsy's like, you don't know the first thing about me. And she's like, apparently I know more about you than you know about you if you think that you're not a threat. Wink, I guess, because I don't see how that makes any sense. But regardless, we cut to the front desk of Argus, where Gunn is walking in with this soldier slash dog slash man on a leash, and we see it intercut with the plan that he's making with Dante. And Dante basically says like, yeah, no, you guys at Argus, you're good at hiding your tracks, but the one place on the internet that you don't wipe regularly is your own database, and using Cisco's credentials, I got in there, I copied it all over and have it ready to go. So you're going to help me find my brother. And Gunn's like, I mean, even if I could, I'm not sure that I could, if you know what I'm saying. And he's like, no, I have no... What in the hell are you talking about? But regardless, my brother only joined in to this whole stupid Argus thing because of you, because he trusted you. So you have to help him. And Gunn's like, fine, all right, whatever. So we see that the soldier dog thing is being brought in. He's being scanned, and the scanner isn't coming up with anything at first. But then Agent Gunn presses a secret button on his bag, and all of a sudden it goes through, and he's given a subject identifier, and he's like, all right, we'll go put him in the circus. But then Gunn's like, oh, well, hold on. I feel pretty good tonight. I'll take care of it myself. You guys just stay here. So walks him over to the elevator, and we see, of course, it's Dante in some sort of suit that Gunn says that he got way back when he first joined Argus, and he took it home as a trophy back before Amanda Waller ran things. So they walk through the circus, quote unquote, which is of course just all the containment cells holding everything else. And we get a full explanation of, they're called subjects. Cisco is subject number 2. Turns out that Armando, Cisco's brother, is designated subject number 1, which makes sense because he was the first person who was like impacted by Darkseid's invasion. I did check back like to issue 3 or whatever when that guy named Breacher showed up, and he introduced himself as Subject 0. So that's something at the very least. But regardless, as they're walking through the circus, they come across Vibe, who is of course under just heavy lockdown, unable to see or move. And Dante's like, is he still alive in there? And he's like, yeah, no, he's fine. Let me just type in my code. And so they type in the code, and then immediately alarm bells start going off. And Dante's like, well, that doesn't sound good. Plan B then. And he pulls out this big gun and just blows open the glass where Cisco is. And all the guards show up, and they're like, all right, everybody down on the ground. Oh, hey, Director Gunn, what are you doing here? And he's like, hey, guys, this kid just... his finger slipped. Everything's cool. Don't worry about it. But of course, right then, a whole bunch of like energy blasts go off, and it's Cisco who's managed to get up, and he's like, all right, I'm officially pissed off now. So he sees Dante nearby, And he's like, Dante, hey, how's it going? And he gets a bit woozy. Dante catches him. And they realize that Agent Gunn has disappeared. He's left the scene because clearly he should not be around at this point. And Dante's like, don't worry, bro. I'm going to get you out of here. That's what brothers are for. And then Dante gets shot in the goddamn chest. And Cisco's like, oh my God, what? And Gypsy's watching on. She's like, oh my God. And Gunn's like, oh my God. And then we realize that apparently Waller ordered them to shoot, but not quite as lethally. And it's like, damn it. All right. Everyone move in, make sure Cisco is taken out. And so Cisco's cradling Dante, and he's like, geez, I think we're really in trouble now. And Cisco's like, they have a good medical wing. He's like, I don't think they use that on intruders. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be left to die here. So then a bunch of mechs come up, and it's like, Cisco, don't use your powers. Stand down. And Cisco's like, here's the thing I learned when I was inside that little tube thing. You guys get it really insulated on the inside because you don't want anyone breaking out, but you never consider anyone breaking in. So he uses his powers to rupture all of the containment cells, and they just do that scene from Cabin in the Woods where all the monsters escape and start attacking the guards. And it's an interesting scene at the very least, but we see that Gypsy has managed to meet back up with them as he's now leading his brother out. And as he's doing so, he starts losing control a little bit. He's getting energy blasts. He feels like he's being pulled out to something. Gypsy tells him, like, look, do what you did before. Just focus on me. That's all it takes. Just, quick little focus. But he cannot. He cannot focus. And we start seeing huge rifts in the universe. We see all these different realities and stuff like that. And finally, we see a speech bubble come out from nowhere and a flaming scythe rip through reality. And out comes this dude who we find out soon is named Rupture. And he's like, I've been looking for so long. I finally have found her. And Amanda Waller hears this and it's like, all right, he's here for Darkseid's daughter who we have locked up. Everyone on deck. Everyone deal with that. And so we see Rupture attacking some of the monsters as Gypsy stares on. It's like, oh crap, it's him. His name's Rupture. He came from my homeworld. He's like the worst, and he's hell-bent on taking away all freedom in all realities, all dimensions. He's like super Hitler. So yeah, he's apparently, she believes that he's definitely there for her. And so Gypsy starts to run away, but we see Rupture manages to catch a glimpse of her. Cisco gets in the way and is like, don't worry, Gypsy, I'll save you. And Gypsy's like, no, Cisco, don't be a hero. But Rupture hears that and says, Cisco, wait, hold on, what? Cisco? And he takes off his mask, and it's Armando. It's the first brother who has apparently become Rupture. Shock and awe, soap opera twist. So here's the thing. This book goes till issue 10. That is the final issue, is issue 10. This issue feels like Sterling Gates just got the news. It feels like that we're really picking up the pace for what may have been a much longer series overall. And we're like, okay, we just very quickly got to do all the reveals. The brother is still alive. The other brother dies. We got to go through all that stuff. Because this first half of this issue did feel pretty well paced. They break into this place. They have this whole big plan as to how they're going to break him out. But then as soon as he types in the code, it just feels like everything moves their breakneck speed. And we're just like, nope, we've got 100 things we need to do before we're done with this book. So it's kind of a book of two halves in that regard, in that it feels very rushed at the end, whereas the first half does feel pretty good. That being said, I do enjoy all the monsters being released and just attacking the guards, because I'm sure that if you had a deep enough DC lore, you'd recognize all these people. You would know exactly who these all are. I, however, don't. I recognize a few of them. One of them was Pariah from Crisis on Infinite Earths, which, frankly, he's breaking all the continuity of the New 52 just by being here, but whatever, I guess. But no, it's a fine issue. It just feels like all of a sudden we're moving a lot faster, whereas this book usually had a pretty leisurely pace up till now. We're kind of sprinting towards the end now, so I'm curious to see how the next 4 issues really pan out. I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but I am a little bit apprehensive. So for right now, I'd say this one is probably it's a 6.5. It's okay, not great, but still very good. Wonder Woman number 22, written by Brian Azzarello, art by Cliff Chiang. So last issue, we were battling the Firstborn. Orion jumped into the fight, caused a boom tube to go off, and Lennox sacrificed himself to stop the Firstborn. But the boom tube led to Highfather and New Genesis. So we pick up there, and Wonder Woman is in some sort of medical stasis, and she's like, "Hey, Zola, how long have I been out?" And Zola's like, 3 days. And he's like, "Well, you let them experiment me on me for 3 days?" And she's like, "That I didn't really have a choice in the matter." So Wonder Woman busts out, jumps down to Zola and says, "All right, tell me everything I missed." So we get a little flashback where they say Orion showed up, he kneeled before Highfather and was like, "Oh, I brought in all these people." And Highfather's like, "You stupid idiot. What are you doing bringing in people? These are trespassers." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but like, there was a thing. And look, the kid, the baby, is the one that was prophesied about that would end all of time." And Highfather's like, "And you brought that baby here? You dumbass? What in the hell is wrong with you?" Highfather's like, okay, yeah, sorry, my bad. Or sorry, Orion is. So at that point, he jumps down. He's like, "You're such a disappointment, Orion. Get out of here." He goes and talks to Hera, and Hera's like, "Hey, how do you know I'm all important?" He's like, "Oh, I always recognize a queen." Wink. So Hera asks how long they're going to be here for, and says, "Oh, well, we'll take care of Wonder Woman's injuries. She should only be here for 3 days." Cut to 3 days later, Wonder Woman is confronting Highfather, and it's just like, "3 days? You had me under sedation for 3 days, against my consent, against my will." And she's like, "Yes, hello, Wonder Woman. You're welcome for saving your life." And Wonder Woman's like, "Okay, yeah, fair enough. Thank you. I am grateful. But, like, what is this place? Where are we?" And he explains, this is New Genesis, home of the New Gods. It is a satellite that is just orbiting this planet that I guess they used to live on, and everyone is peaceful and everyone is joyful and everything is super awesome all the time. And Wonder Woman's like, "Okay, where's Orion at?" And Highfather's like, "Oh, he's down on the planet below meditating." And we see Orion's down there and he is pissed, but he's trying to push away his anger. He's like, "I'm fine, I'm good, I'm not angry." And then catches his own reflection and he's like, "Okay, I'm angry." And he starts smashing up everything around him. Wonder Woman lands and just be like, "Hey, this is my kind of meditating. How's it going?" And he's like, "Don't look at me. I'm hideous." And he's like, "Okay, well, I kind of want to look at you now." So Orion shows off his face and it's very like red and a lot more masculine, I guess. It seems like he just took a bunch of steroids. And he's like, "There, that's me. This is the face of failure." And Wonder Woman's like, "You know, I once tried to be perfect myself, and for you in this sort of world, being perfect seems like a prerequisite, but like, being perfect isn't possible. Just try to be a better version of yourself. And the best way to do that is to accept who you are." And so Orion calms down. He's back to normal. And we see them flying around this planet, and Orion explains what happened because a lot of stuff is in ruins. And he says like, "Oh, it was a great war. There were like poisons and stuff like that just ruined the planet. My people took to the sky to New Genesis, but you know, I wasn't a part of that war. It was before me." And Wonder Woman asks how it ended, and apparently it was in a stalemate. And this planet's been left this way as sort of a reminder of to make sure that like the wars do not start again. So at that point, we see that Wonder Woman's like, "Hey, look, I appreciate you bringing us here. Like, it's super cool of you, but I think it was a mistake." And Orion's like, "I was only trying to protect you and the baby. You know that's what I was trying to do." And it's like, "Yeah, no, totally, but your dad's kind of a dick, and I'm not sure he's going to let us leave too easily." And Orion's like, yeah, all right, fair enough, sorry." And Wonder Woman's basically saying like, "Look, no blame on you. Your intentions were good." And he's like, "Yeah, intentions, that definitely matters." So we see after some time, Wonder Woman is in front of Highfather, and Highfather's like, "Well, I've agreed to let you go, and don't come back." And Wonder Woman's like, "Fair enough, sounds like a good idea to me." And then he says, "But one more thing." And he uses some energy to stop Wonder Woman from moving, and he says, "Yeah, we're taking the baby." And she's like, "Son of a why does everybody need this baby so much?" And Orion's like, "Highfather, are you sure that's a..." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Do I hear somebody questioning Highfather? Do I hear some idiot, some stupid little boy questioning their father?" And he's like, "No, Dad, sorry." So he goes off to pick up the baby. And Wonder Woman's like, hey, you know I'll beat you down if you get anywhere close to the baby. But then the guards nearby turn their guns on Zola, and she's like, oh, you cowards. So at that point, Orion's like, look, I'm sorry for everything, for even bringing you here. Highfather's right, though. And it's like, no, he's not right. This guy treats you like crap. You know you're better than that. Yeah, like, if you truly believe that, then I shouldn't have even saved you back from the firstborn. And Orion's like, I'm the one who saved you, though? And it's like, yeah, right. We saved each other. That's what's going on. So, like, you know that there has to be, so there's fate drawing us together. There's some reason that all this happened. You have to let us go. And Zola's like, yeah, I'm not going to let you take my baby. And he's like, okay, but I'm going to take your baby. So he picks up Zeke. The others start getting pushed through a boom tube. Wonder Woman yells out like, hi, father, I will be back. Mark my words. And she's like, no, you won't. You have no way of getting here. Piss off. So Wonder Woman says, Orion, you're better than this. Even if your father doesn't think so, I do. And she goes and steps through the boom tube. And Orion's like, Wonder Woman, we just met. Like, I'm sure I would have disappointed you eventually, but you know what? I am a screw-up. Sorry, Dad. And he hops on his bike along with baby Zeke and jumps through the boom tube right before it closes. So, and then he says, oh, no apologies needed, my son. Good luck. So they all end back up in normal Earth. And everyone's like, oh, Orion, oh, thank you. We knew you'd do the right thing. And he was like, oh, I wasn't even listening to what you guys were saying. I was making a plan the whole time. Did you say mean things about me? So at that point, Hera looks around just like, guys, city looks different since we left. And if you remember, they were in London. And when they get back, the whole place is on fire. Everyone is running and screaming about monsters. And so they start making their way through the crowds towards where everyone is running away from. And they reach a cathedral. And sitting on the throne inside is Firstborn. And he's like, you know, for such a place where kings are crowned, this place is pathetically small. And Wonder Woman's like, this destruction, these murders that you have committed will not go unpunished, Firstborn. Mark my words. She's like, fair enough. Start with this one. And he tosses the head of Lennox, which has been crushed into like nothing. And Wonder Woman's like, oh, my dear brother, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Yeah, Firstborn, I'm going to kick your ass. And she's like, all right, well, fair enough. I've got hyena guards. And a bunch of hyena guards come out. And he's like, fight through them, and then we'll see if you can deal with me. And so Wonder Woman tells Zola and the rest of them to get away. And Zola's like, stop doing the damn sacrifice play. Seriously, we are a family now, and we're going to act like it. And standing in the doorway saying, oh, family, huh? Is War, who shows up drunk off his ass. And Hera calls him out for it. And he's like, well, Mom, you know what they say, no time like the present. Except he actually says prescient. But I don't know what difference that makes. So overall, I enjoyed this issue. I think it was very well done. I will say I kind of wish that the new Genesis stuff was more heavily around. It feels like it was just a detour here. Like, we set up Orion being here as a mission of Highfather like many, many issues ago. And then I feel like we forgot it. And then all of a sudden, Brian Azzarello was like, oh, right, I have to deal with that. So we just dealt with it for half an issue and then just kicked him back onto the main plot. If it comes back in a bigger way, I'll eat my words. I'll gladly take it back. But it just feels like things changed. Like there was a change of plans, and now they didn't want to deal with that as heavily as they did. So they just quickly got it over with, and now we're just done with New Genesis. So kind of let down by that. I really do enjoy the concept of the new gods, but whatever they're doing, I'm also interested in. I like the idea of, you know, a war between the old gods as well. So I will go ahead and give this I'll give it an 8. I'll give it a, 7.5. 8 just doesn't sound right. It's just a bit too much. It's just underneath that because I do think that it does feel like too much of a detour as it stands right now. So 7.5 for this, but still very good. Legion of Superheroes number 22, written by Paul Levitz, art by Geoff Johnson. So last issue, the entire Legion got the smackdown from Persuader and Emerald Empress, and at the very end we had Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl show up saying, we'll take you all on. So this issue picks up in that exact same spot, saying like, hey Tharok, we'll take you down. And he's like, I'm made of energy, but Persuader, go take care of them. And Persuader jumps in and starts attacking Lightning Lad. And he's like, psh, my axe can cut through electrons. You think you have anything that you could do, Lightning Lad? You're no. And then turns out Saturn Girl gave him like a mind whammy. And as she's focusing on doing that so that Lightning Lad can land a punch, she is zapped and grabbed by the ponytail by Emerald Empress, who just swoops in, grabs her, and flies away. And Therok's like, okay, well, that was inconvenient. Persuader, continue attacking. And he's like, all right, sure. I do love this one line from Therok, though, which I'm just going to quote wholesale. Finish your task, Persuader. And then talking about Emerald Empress, I hope she kills your bitch slowly. Like, damn, that's hardcore. So Persuader attacks Lightning Lad. And he's just like, oh, if you hurt Saturn Girl, I'm going to be awful cross with you. And Persuader's like, oh, okay, well, you're going to be dead, so whatever. So he's about to land a finishing blow on Lightning Lad. And then all of a sudden, from behind, his sister, as he says, nice shot, sis, Lightning Lass? Girl? I don't know. Wakes up and shocks Persuader. And so they zap him together. He gets knocked out. And they both are like, awesome, good job. Now, Therok, for you. And Therok's like, okay, well, I wasn't really looking to deal with this. Empress, let's get going. And Emerald Empress comes back in, still holding Saturn Girl by the ponytail. And Therok's like, we're going to make a portal and beam out of here. Bye. So they go out, and Lightning Lad jumps in after them. So they teleport to the Promethean giant that we dealt with before. Except this time, there's a ship next to the Promethean giant. And we see that there are two people on the ship who are talking about, like, oh, there's flesh and blood on this giant. We have to be here. It's important that we're here. We're going to risk it all again. So we see Therok, Empress, Saturn Girl, and Lightning Lad arrive. And as soon as they get there, Lightning Lad gets zapped by Empress and is just out of the fight. So Saturn Girl stands up, starts going toe-to-toe with Empress. And it's like, Empress, you got that eye living inside of you. I'm sure that the real you is still underneath there somewhere. And she's like, psh, doesn't matter. My eye's all too powerful. You better be afraid of me. And she's like, I'm not afraid of you. I fought Darkseid. And Empress is like, well, then you'll die brave. So at that point, they fight for a brief period. But Saturn Girl basically is like, nope, I've already tapped into your mind of the like person underneath the Empress, underneath the eye. So mind whammy. And she's out of the fight as well. So then Therok is the only one left. And Saturn Girl's like, I will use my mental powers. And he's like, I'm made of energy. You can't touch me. I'm unstoppable to you. And then out from a portal from the dead world comes Polar Boy and Invisible Kid. And he's like, all right, well, I don't think either of you can do anything about me either. But regardless, you guys want to meet the fifth member of the Fatal Five? Here you go. And he activates the Promethean giant that they're on and uses his like control over it to take its hand and just like start swatting at them. And Therok will, of course, be fine. But the rest of them will have serious issues with the whole living thing. So it looks like the hand is about to crush Polar Boy. And Therok's like, do it, crush him. But turns out that the two beings inside the ship are Sensor Girl and Karate Kid. And Sensor Girl is using her powers of, quote, manipulation of sensory information to free the Promethean giant from the control of Therok. And so it no longer has to listen to him. It doesn't try to kill anybody anymore. And Karate Kid's like, awesome, let's get down there so I can punch something. And Sensor Girl's like, I'm pretty sure the fight's going to be over before then, so let's just, chill here for a while. So Therok's like, all right, you know what? Screw this. I still have energy powers. I can kill one more of the Legion myself. And so he goes after Polar Boy, starts zapping him with energy. And Saturn Girl's like, Polar Boy, absolute zero now. And Polar Boy uses his powers to put an ice thing around Therok. And he's like, hey, idiot, I'm made of energy. You can't freeze energy. But it turns out Polar Boy can get all the way down to absolute zero, to the point where not even electrons can move anymore. So Therok is frozen completely solid, and the Fatal Five is officially defeated. So cut to the site of the Legion headquarters. We see Brainiac 5, Duplicate Damsel, and Bouncing Boy, as well as a bunch of other people, but those are the main ones. Brainiac 5's like, okay, I did some scans. Theroc's taken care of, but he did some lasting damage on our ability to use Quark relay systems, so we got to kind of like rebuild from like all that tech. Like it's going to be a problem. And Duplicate Damsel is upset because one of her duplicates has died, and so she has to bury it. And all the Legionnaires look on and are just like, all right, everyone, now we have to see if the Legion can come back from such an issue. And Brainiac 5 just looks up at them and with tears in his eyes, and he says, it's all my fault. So next issue is the last issue. And you can feel it. You can feel that the next issue is either going to end on this hopeful, uplifting note or this bittersweet note. I doubt they're going to go full dour, where it's just like, and then the whole planet blew up, the end. I'm sure there will be some sort of hopeful message for the future of the Legion, but like, yeah, no, they're in dire straits. Like, there's going to be some bad thing, unless they somehow manage to like time travel back and fix it all, which it's the Legion. That's always a possibility. But as for this issue, it's okay. I do like that each member of the Fatal Five was taken care of by some other different Legionnaire. Like, it wasn't just Saturn Girl coming in there and just mind whammying everybody. Like, every member got taken out their own unique way. So even if Persuader may have been a bit too easy for my liking, so be it. It's fine in the long run. I'm going to give this book, I'm going to give it a 6.5. It's okay. It's a fine issue. I don't have that many issues with it because, again, this issue, like, first off, it gave me name things for all these new people that were coming in. So totally down for that. But there was also the issues of, like, Censor Girl and Karate Kid. I don't think we've ever met them before. Like, they just came out of nowhere as a deus ex of like, and we saved you from the giants. It's like, oh, okay, thanks. So yeah, it has its issues, but it's still a decent read overall. Probably the most I've enjoyed Legion this entire show, which isn't saying much, but it's something. Animal Man number 22, written by Geoff Lemire, art by Steve Pugh and Francis Portela. So last issue, Buddy went hunting for a missing cat. He came across this laboratory full of dead and dismembered animals, and then was attacked by this horrible fusion of a bunch of animal pieces on top of a man. And as he went to give chase, a bunch of paparazzi showed up because Buddy is now famous. Additionally, Maxine went to the Red and told the totems, hey, I'm going to get my brother back. Don't get in my way. And they're like, we're totally cool with that. So this issue picks up with Maxine walking out of the castle in the Red, and she's like, this place looks a lot different from the last time I was here. What's going on? And Shepard explains that, like, look, you are in control now. The Red will shape itself to your imagination. And even if you're not consciously doing this, this is the way that your subconscious imagines the Red. And we see that it's starting to change into a more fairy tale sort of area. I mean, it's still made of blood and bones and guts and blood, but we see like a village and a little field next to it. Mind you, the field is an organ field. It's growing brains and livers and kidneys. And Maxine takes notes of this, like, huh, you can just grow those things? And then Shepard's like, yep, totally. And she's like, I've got an idea. But first we cut back to Buddy, who's still being interrogated by the paparazzi. And they're like, hey, Buddy, are you joining the JLA? Is this all just a publicity stunt? Is that guy who ran past us part of your secret publicity thing? And Buddy's like, what in the hell are you all doing here? That guy's a killer. What are you insane? And they keep asking him questions until finally he lashes out and like growls like I don't even know what. It's disgusting. Almost snake-like. His jaw unhinges. And he just runs out. He follows the shadowy figure of he calls them the splintered species. I'm going to call them the splinter group, I guess, because there is more than one, as we'll see. But he chases after him, and he's just like, yeah, no, I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to get revenge for all those animals that were harmed. And so he goes in, but as he goes in, he's overwhelmed with the screams of the dead animals again. And it turns out, as I said, there's more than one. And so he's jumped, and the main one that he saw before raises up a hatchet, and he's like, don't you get it? We just want what you have. We want to be closer to the animals. So don't be afraid. And he brings down the hatchet into Buddy's shoulder. And we cut back to the Red, where Maxine is just focusing really hard. And she's explains to them as they keep on asking her what she's doing, like, when I was killed before, I managed to make myself a new body just by imagining it. I'm going to do the same thing for Cliff. Like, I'm just going to make him a new body here. Seems easy enough. And Socks tries to intervene. As she does so, we see her assembling all the different parts from nearby things. And Socks is like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. You can't do this, Maxine. And Shepard just stops Socks after a while. Just like, let her make this mistake. Let her understand what her limits are. But we see that she has fully made the body, and standing in front of her is a slack-jawed, dead-eyed version of Cliff. And she's like, see, I did it. So Animal Man wakes up. The splinter species are standing over top of him, and they're just making sure all the restraints are in place, because we see that Buddy, he has had his shoulder sewn back up so he doesn't immediately die, but he has a bunch of huge IV tubes hooked up to him that are just draining him of as much blood as humanly possible. And as one of the huge jars fills up, they unplug it and send it off in a delivery truck. And he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll take super good care of it. And he's like, you better. That thing's worth more than all of our lives combined. And Animal Man's like, what in the hell is going on here, man? And the main guy speaks up and he says, my name is Clinton Hogue. I was an animal rights activist. We all were. We love animals. We just want to be closer to them. We want to be like you. We want to be one with them and be able to share in their knowledge and such. So, just answer a few of my questions here. First off, what is it called? We heard of like morphogenetic field or the life web or something. And he starts torturing Buddy. And Buddy's like, oh, it's called the red. It's called the red. Please stop torturing me. And he's like, yeah, the red. Yep, we've been trying to get with the red for so long. You have no idea. And, as you can tell, our experiments are a bit extreme, but we don't really care about that anymore. It's all about the red now. So he says, luckily, though, we're not the only ones looking for the red place. So we've gotten ourselves some backers. And at that point, the paparazzi has busted through the door and are like, Buddy, is this your new secret headquarters? Oh, you're being actually tortured. Whoops. So we cut back to Maxine, who is looking over the body of Cliff, which is already starting to decompose slightly. And Socks finally chimes in like, Maxine, every body needs a soul. Without it, the body will just decay and it's not sustainable. It won't happen. As we know, when Cliff died, his soul joined the red. It's somewhere in this realm, but it's not just as easy as you making the body again. You need to go find his soul. So the body collapses into goop, and Maxine, upset, runs and hugs Shepard, and she's like, hey, this is a lesson that you needed to learn. Like, yeah, you're in charge here, but there are just some rules. There are laws of this reality that you can't get past, and this is one of them. So we got to go find that soul. And at that point, Socks starts freaking out, saying that someone is coming, and they look around. It's like, I don't see anybody. But he's like, no. In the real world, in the normal world, like, your mom is coming into the bedroom, and we're supposed to be in bed. We got to get back there now. So they leave the red and back up in her bedroom as we see Ellen open the door. And she's like, Maxine, are you the one making all that noise? And I really want to point out for this sequence that Ellen is, like, constantly bathed in shadow, and, like, it seems like she's evil. I'm not, like, there's nothing in these panels that says that she is, but it seems like she's evil. So I don't know if that's going to play out. But regardless, they say, oh yeah, Socks was the one making all the noise, which I think Socks was supposed to be a secret as of like 2 issues ago, but I guess not anymore. And she's like, oh yeah, fair enough. Look, I'm happy you're awake. I was missing you. Do you mind if like me and you just cuddle up for a little while and like, I just make sure you're safe? And she's like, yeah, of course, Mommy. Don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. And she's like, yeah, I wish I could believe that. So then we go back to the delivery. The splinter species are delivering the vat of blood to some Hollywood Hills home. And we see this guy in a hood picking it up. And he's like, oh, yes, we shed our lives. We shed our flesh. And he's like, yeah, shed our lives, shed our flesh. Cool, whatever. So the guy makes his way inside a building, takes an elevator down into this creepy-ass cave. And as he reaches the bottom, we see him deliver the blood, saying, this belonged to Buddy Baker. You can now become one with the red, my lord, my savior, Brother Blood. And we see Brother Blood, of course, bathing in blood, saying, good. I was really looking forward to this. Awesome. So if you've been watching the video version, on the back of the book is Brother Blood, so that secret was kind of ruined 6 issues ago. But regardless, I'm into it. I think that this is a good enough place as any for Brother Blood to show up. Clearly they've been dealing with this idea of, now that Buddy is no longer directly connected to the Red, any powers he has are completely self-contained, so there is now something in his blood. It's not this, wumbo-jumbo mystical energy of the Red anymore. It is just all self-contained to him. So I think it's a good enough time as any to explore this idea of some character who's solely concerned with the blood and getting power from it. It's match made in heaven as far as I'm concerned. As far as the paparazzi and the Splinter Species stuff, here's the thing I'm having an issue with. I am so much more interested in Maxine's plot than I am Buddy's. Don't get me wrong, it's an interesting plot. It's got this idea of like, oh yeah, he's famous again. But like, yeah, the paparazzi dogging him, that's annoying. That's a story in its own right. But I feel that the so much more interesting story is you have Maxine, this brand new child ruler of this realm of the Red, going on this quest to find the soul of her brother. That just sounds incredibly interesting. And I so much more want to see that than I care about Buddy running around just playing superhero, So I guess my hope is that in the next issue, we either focus more on Maxine's plot or we make the Buddy plot more interesting. I don't know how. Probably Brother Blood coming in could get it there, but we'll see. As it stands now, I kind of want him to just focus on Maxine for a while. I'd be totally down with that. So we'll see when we get there. Overall, this issue is still probably it's a 7.5. It's an enjoyable issue. The art, fantastic. It really gives you, when she makes the body of Cliff, the knowledge as soon as it's made, like, this isn't right, and it's not going to be okay. It's going to be a pet cemetery thing going on. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's still a great issue, regardless of, even if I didn't like a few little knickknacks here or there. And that's it. That's all the comics that came out this July 17th, 2013. And I'm going to be frank with you. My voice is fried and my mind is not far behind it. I'm very tired and I have to edit this to be released within the next 12 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and just call this episode there. Please, if you didn't at the beginning of the episode, leave a comment on the YouTube video about whether or not you would like these videos to be in your subscription feed or not. I gave a whole explanation at the beginning if you skipped over it. Just go back to that. I don't want to say it again. Anyway, comics for next week. Do need to cover that. We have 14 of them, varying different numbers. I'm not going to tell you what issue numbers, but we have Batman the Dark Knight, Catwoman, Red Hood and the Outlaws, Talon, Batman/Superman, Superman, Larfleeze, Aquaman, Flash, All-Star Western, Green Team, Teen Titans, Constantine, and Justice League Dark. Big notes out of that is Constantine and Justice League Dark, the former of which is a tie-in to Trinity War. The latter is part 3. So definitely worth checking out both of those. They'll be at the beginning of next week's episode. But that'll do it for me. If you have anything that you want to say, feel free to leave a comment. We have social links in the description of however it is you're watching this or listening to this. Go ahead and leave a comment wherever you see fit. But that'll do it for me. Thank you very much for watching, listening, however it is you consume this podcast. Be sure to tune in next week. And as always, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.